You're listening to the Small Business Talk podcast with Cathy Smith, episode 83.
Small Business Talk is a podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want a better way to run their businesses without spending years doing it the hard way. Small Business Talk is hosted by Cathy Smith, who has run the same marketing agency for more than 17 years and helped hundreds of business owners achieve their marketing goals.
Welcome to Small Business Talk. Today, my guest is Tracey Ward from Talking Genders. Welcome, Tracey. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into business?
Oh, yes, Cathy. How long have you got? I think it was a combination. I've had the most, eclectic career. Started off in civil engineering, realised I wasn't a detail person, went into sales, spent years being really successful in sales and then leading sales teams. But then I realised my motivation was actually on developing my team rather than the sales target. So I went back to uni and did a psychology degree with the view of becoming a psychologist. Did some care work with some people with severe mental health issues. And I just realized I didn't have the patience. So I took my work experience from working in sales and my love of helping people be the best version of themselves. And then started a career in a business in training and coaching and facilitating programs about helping people in business actually reach the goals that they want to do. And I've been doing it in different guises for about 20 years now. Although, Cathy, I'm getting to the stage now where I'm shaving off the number of years I've been in business rather than when I was younger, I was adding them on.
I think that's so true, isn't it? We get to a stage where we go, oh yeah, 20-something instead of the exact number. When we hit 10, it's, oh yeah, it's 10 and 11 months. Whereas as we get a little bit older, then, just round it off. That's all cool. Okay, so today we're going to talk about 5 strategies to ensure that you have the right mindset to take the small, and we're doing air commas here, out of small business. And I think that is a big thing, isn't it? People think of small business as being small, but certainly here in Australia, they say small business is anything up to 20 million. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't mind a nice piece of that pie. Let's talk about removing the small.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think our language is really telling. And if you tell yourself, I just run a small business, that in itself is limiting where you're going. Key thing that I want to talk to you today, Cathy, about is actually our self-image. And this is some great research work that actually was done in the 1960s by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics, which is just a fascinating book. And what he discovered, he was a plastic surgeon. Before plastic surgery became common, the nips and tucks and boob jobs and facelifts, he was doing it on people that had major, severe facial disfigurements from, say, injury or birth defects. And what he discovered, when the patients were transformed physically, so they'd have a lovely new external facial look, most of the patients changed their personality because, say, for example, they'd been very shy because they felt people looked at them in a funny way with their scar on their face. But not everybody changed. And it was that difference that led him to think about there's something else going on mentally that stops us from moving forward. And this is where he came to the discovery that we actually have a self-image. So it's that self-image that actually limits where we go, how we see ourselves. It's not what we're projecting to the world. I've spent years, Cathy, teaching people how to sit up straight and make eye contact, for body language, or change your hair or buy a different suit. But in actual fact, it's how you see yourself is the really important thing in changing the results that you get.
Yeah, and I guess that's where people say fake it till you make it. And obviously you don't want to be unauthentic. But if you're going for a corporate style job and you turn up in a polo shirt and jeans, obviously you're not done your research properly and you're not wearing the clothes that would be appropriate for that kind of job. And it's the same when you're a, inverted commas, small business owner. You need to dress and act like a business owner, so that therefore if you're going to a client's place or having clients come to your place, whether it be your home or your place of business, you need to look the part. So if that is a smart suit and a nice skirt, as opposed to at the moment your sloppy joes and your Ugg boots, then that is really where we need to go. So sometimes it is to almost dress to impress, isn't it? So that we can fit into that position.
Yeah, absolutely, Cathy. It is just to impress, but the person you need to impress is yourself and how you see yourself. So you can wear the fanciest suit, but if you're still thinking like you're a bit of a fraud, like imposter syndrome, you are not going to get that job interview. So this 5-step process in changing your self-image starts off from really taking a good stock take of your life and going, where am I now? Because if you're looking at your business and if you're, say, for example, if you're just going, damn, I'm working really hard, my partner keeps on having a go at me because I'm working 70 hours a week, and she or he is saying, you always said you'd only do this at the beginning of your business and you're still doing it. But you can't seem to get off that treadmill. Or if you've got a business and you've got great products, great service, but the money just isn't coming in. Those are really interesting things. So I always get clients to be curious at looking at their business. When we tend to look at our business or look at ourselves, we can often approach that with judgment. That's not a healthy way. We just beat ourselves up and go, we're not working hard enough, or we need to rebrand the product. But no, it's about stopping and just being curious about what's working. As a small business, you might have a team of 10 people and managing those people is going really well. You've got a really good product because the clients that you have are really good, but there's some barrier about you expanding. So it's just being curious. So the first step is to stock take and go, what's not working in the business and what is working in the business.
And I think there sometimes people also self-sabotage themselves. So they've got the team and they're working quite well, and then they'll just go and throw in a spanner in the works. Quite often they say that the owner can be the bottleneck because everything's running smoothly. And then you decide right in the middle of it, you're going to change a process, or you're going to bring in a client that really doesn't fit, or you're going to change a team member who's working really well in that area and you want to make them do something else. So everything's running really smooth and you're going, oh, but there's got to be something more. So you just throw a spanner in the works as a business owner.
And Cathy, that's a perfect identifier. If you're curious and you go, that's interesting, I keep on seeming to be sabotaging my business. And then to start working out why that is occurring. So what programming have you put in place to make this happen? Because what happens with our self-image has been formed really by our conditioning as a child, by our life experience as a child, and through what we've inherited through our DNA. So we often used to think, when you see a baby, you think, oh, it's just a blank slate. No, it comes up. There's so many traits and beliefs that we've inherited. The next is to be really curious about your childhood conditioning and experiences to see how it might have formed a self-image of yourself. For example, one of the stories that I tell, because it's interesting just in terms of how a child interprets it. When I was 5 years old, I was sent, remember this is a few years ago when there was less helicopter parenting around. I went with my best friend to the corner shop to buy some frozen peas. Frozen peas aren't important to the story, but they were very important to me at the time. Big responsibility. It was literally just around the corner. And I come back with my change. And I'm just walking down the street with my friend when this 16-year-old boy pulls a knife out on me and says, give me your money. Now, bless my 5-year-old self. I grew up in a family where we didn't have much money. And I went, no, it's not your money. It's my mummy's money. I don't know how I managed to get that sentence out, but I was really adamant that it wasn't right and that it wasn't his money to take. And then I told my girlfriend to run across the street. So there's this poor 16-year-old going, this is meant to be easy, taking money from a 5-year-old. And we had a bit of a Mexican standoff. And then he ran off because some other people came down the street. Now, what was interesting was when I went home and I told my mother about this, she was furious out of fear and wanting to protect me, and no doubt out of guilt and thinking, oh, I shouldn't have sent her to the shop when she was only 5. So I got told off for not giving him the money.
Oh, dear.
Well, because she said, give him the money so that he'll just go away. She didn't want him to attack me with that. So I get why she told me that now. But my little brain, what I heard is just give people money. Don't hold on to it. Fight on to it. So as I got older, and particularly when I first found out about the power, the limiting power of our self-image, was I saw myself as a great coach. I understood my value as a coach and my genuine care factor with people. But my business wasn't making any money. I just need to continually be giving money out. And it was when I went back and looked at that experience and then the belief I had, it's wrong to hold on to money. And I also lived with my mother and grandmother who continually said money is the root of all evil and it's unladylike to talk about money. So I had all these beliefs and conditioning that formed my self-image. So it was a real aha moment for me in seeing, I can see why money isn't coming into my business, because my self-image and what our self-image is like, it's like, imagine it's like a thermostat in the room. The moment money comes in, if it comes in too much, the thermostat goes, oh, hang on, money's the root of all evil. Let's create some bills, if you like, or some ways that you can get rid of that money. So you go back to that set point. And Cathy, it was like you talking about the person, everything's going well. Suddenly they start sabotaging the business because they were probably told unwittingly by their parents, life is hard. So when it's easy, you get this unrest within your self-image. So your self-image goes, okay, we need to do something to make it difficult, and then we're comfortable. It's fascinating stuff, Cathy.
Yes, it definitely is. And a few things that we can unpack there. I want to go back to when you said about a clear slate for the baby. I've spent quite a lot of years in Townsville in the top of Queensland in Australia. And there were some friends we had there who had 2 adopted children. And they were involved in some research about how much those children actually inherited from their biological parents and how much they inherited from their new loving parents and their environment. And these studies went on for about 15 or 16 years. And the thing with these 2 children were that they were actually from different biological parents. Mm-hmm. So it was a really good study to see how much of that had come from their loving environment that they now grew up in to what they had brought with them. And there was a boy and a girl. And, it was interesting to see the different things. So some of it was definitely the environment they had now, and some of it was definitely already ingrained in them. And these children came when they were very young. So I'm not quite sure how old, but they were babies. So they didn't have a lot of environmental exposure before they arrived in this family. So that was amazing to see how much of it was actually already in their DNA. And then the other thing that you were talking about was like making things hard. You always hear business is hard. Oh, how's it going? And you see it on Facebook memes all the time. Oh, business is so hard. Small business is so hard. And I saw a friend of mine comment the other day and said, it is what you make it. If you think it is hard, of course it's going to be hard. And you know that yourself when you get up and you've got a bit of a sniffle or a cold and you go, oh, it's going to be a bad day today. I'm getting a cold. And then suddenly you drag yourself around for the whole day. or you go, I've got something on, I can't have a cold today. You pull your shoulders up and off you go. And then, of course, you generally have a much better day. So mindset does take so much into consideration.
It's so powerful. And with all the coaching I do, it's all, as I said to everybody, even though I might be coaching them on their business, it's all an inside job in their head. I do the decluttering in the head. And then when their head is decluttered and they've got a brilliant new self-image, they know what to do with their business. It's just their self-image, like this thermostat, has been bringing them back to this comfort point. And people will say, even, people that want to lose weight, they go on endless diets. But if their set point, their self-image holds them at a certain weight, they'll lose a bit of weight, and then the body will go, oh, hang on, we're meant to be overweight, and we're not. We're normal at the moment, so we'll start putting the weight back on. So you see it. I've got a friend of mine, and people say, let's work on your self-image. She eats lettuce. She's still carrying that weight. So
yes,
really got to correct it.
Absolutely. And you see that time and time again when you have families that have had major problems, and one of the children will go on to be a very successful adult and will be determined not to get on that treadmill and continue in their family's path. And the other one will be a total dysfunctional person and quite often won't live until their 30s because they've ended up going down that path and becoming, a product of their environment.
Yeah, so it's all to do with our self-image and how we see ourselves. When we've stock checked our life and we've seen what's working, what isn't, and then we've married that with being curious about potential DNA, life experience and conditioning, particularly prior to 7. Prior to 7, we are sponges and our subconscious has no filter. So what we're told, we just believe, which is why just one comment, my mother we had a great relationship, but Bailey got told off. I got told off so viciously about not just giving the money away. That just went straight in, and was all part of forming my self-image. You can see clients, they get these real aha moments and go, oh, that makes so much sense. And it might just be, I'd say, very small comments from well-meaning carers. It doesn't mean to say you've had a terrible childhood to have just flaws in your self-image. So then what we do is we work out what's the stuff that you want to keep. So I was really conditioned to be compassionate, caring, non-judgmental. I love that. My mum was just so beautiful like that. So I want to keep that. Flaw around money was one thing that I wanted to change. What we do is I take clients through an exercise of letting go of the belief, writing out what you think the old belief is and the old conditioning, and writing out all the negative impacts that had on you throughout life, and then asking yourself, is this limiting belief 100% true? Say for example, if my limiting belief was, I am not worthy of money. Is that 100% true? No.
No, of course not.
No, absolutely not. My clients have such amazing shifts. Of course I'm worthy being paid for it. And often I see a bit of eye rolling at the beginning. I say, talk to yourself out loud, because you can then sort of like talk to your self-image. And I'm going, okay, is this true? Am I really not worthy? No. Then what I get people to do, and it's so symbolic, although if you're a real left brain thinker and you're really rational, people resist this, but they get used to the idea. I want you to symbolically burn that old belief.
Yes, and I think sometimes talking to yourself, you actually just need to hear it like through your ears rather than through your head, especially if you've been in an argument or something like that and you verbalise to your girlfriend why you've been complaining about whatever, and it just seems so trivial. And sometimes talking to yourself, you go, what? I'm not worthy of money. Why am I saying silly things like that? So, sometimes actually having it through your ears rather than your head can make a huge difference.
So what we do is we burn the old belief that was really a flaw with our self-image, and we replace it with a new belief, which can be just as simple as I am worthy of money. And we do that revamp of our self-image. And then the next step is to actually write who you want to be in every facet of your life in this new self-image. So it might be, who do you want to be as the business leader in your business? Who do you want to be as the leader of your team? Who do you want to be in terms of your role in the family? Who do you want to be in society? So there can be different facets of your self-image depending on where you are in your life and what's important. Who do you want to be as a working parent, for example? Or who do you want to be as a successful businesswoman and somebody who has a loving, intimate relationship? Get everybody to write out their self-image as if they have achieved it and it's in the now. So you're writing in the present tense with absolute joy and enthusiasm. So I might write something like, I am an amazing coach that's worthy of being well paid for all the great work that I do. So you write out this self-image. And then the next step is to actually keep reminders and embedding that self-image in us. Because what we're doing is we're really reprogramming our subconscious mind, which is where our self-image is. We need to reprogram. And this takes a bit of time. If you think about, so Cathy, you're a parent. If you think about, for anybody who's a parent, teaching little children to brush their teeth, wash their hands, say please, say thank you. You know, we didn't say it once. We had to say it again and again and again until it got locked into our subconscious. So this is what we need to do to reprogram how we see ourselves.
Yes, I think that's so true, because anything important you do over and over and over, don't you? When we learn maths, or as the guys over the other side of the world say, math, we had to do our times tables over and over and over and over. And I think that is something we miss in business. We just think that we can watch one YouTube video or do part of a course and then suddenly we've got it. Now, with your writing in the present for your future self, you said, I'm worthy of making lots of money. So would you actually put a dollar figure on that? Would you define what lots is to you personally?
Oh, look, absolutely. If I was getting somebody to write out a new self-image, I would be saying, I want you to think a year from now, and I've got a magic wand and I can make everything happen. So I want you to describe where your business is. In an ideal world, everything has gone brilliant. Where your business is a year from now, and who you are at the helm of that business, and how you see yourself as a truly successful entrepreneur and taking your business from small to magnificent in whatever your goal is. So absolutely, we would be very specific. The more specific we can be, the better, because what we want to be able to do so that we really embed this self-image is we need to be able to see ourselves. So often I might say, okay, it's a year from now, your business is absolutely flourishing. Where are you to say, for example, celebrate that successful year? And they might say, you know, they might be a key sailor, and they might say, well, of course, you know, because we can't travel at the moment. So they might say, well, I've bought a new boat. They're on this new sailing boat, a yacht, and they're there with their team, and they're celebrating the great results that they've had. And it's about painting that image, specifically the results, but particularly in terms of their self-image, what they were doing so that they got those results. So, Cathy, like your point before, you know, of this sabotaging, just going, it's just been an amazing year. You know, I trusted my team. We worked collaboratively. I led them with great enthusiasm and engagement, and we've got these amazing results, X, Y, Z. So that's very much what we do. So you're right, Cathy, we'd be really specific on who we are and the results that we're getting.
Perfect. I follow a podcast. It's called Dent Global, and it's by a guy called Glenn Carlson. And he's actually identified that his business runs so much better if he actually takes 3 months off because in those 3 months, his team know the process, they can run it, and then he's doing the more big strategic thinking because his mind is not in the day-to-day running of the business. So sometimes actually extracting yourself or getting out a little bit can make a huge difference. And I think that's another mindset that we get into, is nobody can do it like we do it. And it's where people get in trouble when they're starting to think about team. We did a podcast episode earlier, and I'll reference the number in the show notes, with Jo Alalovich, who's a HR lawyer. And she was talking about how to bring on team, and people just want them to replace you, which of course is not the case. And I certainly was guilty of that. I wanted somebody who was a bookkeeper, who could do social media, who was a web designer, who could do absolutely everything. And of course, that was just about 8 people, not one. And so my first hire was an absolute disaster because I just didn't give her the correct instructions, and I expected her to do everything that I was doing, which of course is a business owner, and she didn't want to be a business owner. So sometimes it is about defining what you do, what your people do. And that can be a mindset thing too, because I was thinking, well, she should be able to do it. Why can't she do it? I can do it. And then it was, oh, no, but nobody else can do what I do. And then I had to pull back. But fortunately, somebody pulled me up and said, hey, did you do all of that in the beginning? Which of course I didn't. So yeah, I think that's huge on mindset. And it's interesting about the way we take on other people's beliefs can definitely influence our own self-image. When I very first started my business and started running it full-time, my daughter was just starting full-time school. And I would drop her off in the playground or beside the schoolroom. And if I was wearing casual clothes, my girlfriends would say, oh, can you come out and have lunch or do whatever? If I was wearing a business clothes, they'd say, oh, you're working today. Well, because she was in full-time school, I was working every day. So what I would tend to do is wear those clothes, because that gave me the mindset of I'm working today. But it also projected externally to people to see that I had the mindset that I was working today. And the difference that I was treated was quite remarkable, but it made me feel good. And then after a while, I didn't actually have to wear that uniform anymore, because I already had the mindset that I am a businesswoman and I am working. And so now with the times that we've been in lockdown, sometimes I don't have to wear my uniform because I know that it's a work day and I will be working. Yes. So it's interesting how the external can influence our own internal as well mindsets.
Absolutely. Although I think the joy of Zoom is you can be in your tracky pants and Uggs at the bottom half and your corporate look at the top, and nobody knows. So you've got the best of both worlds.
You can be comfortable and warm as well as looking.
Yeah, and I think, Cathy, to pick up on one of your points about leading people, one of the fascinating things I've found when I've worked in organizations, if I say to the leader, delegate more. Delegation is something a lot of people find hard. And again, it comes back to their conditioning. Either they think they need to do it themselves. If they're not doing it themselves, then they're a failure. Or they think nobody can do it as well as they can. Or it comes from a care factor of thinking, well, if I might overload the team. And what's really interesting, when I speak to the team, they go, my leader doesn't trust me. They're craving to learn new stuff. And their perception of this material, because the leader doesn't want to overwhelm them, their perception is the leader just doesn't think they're good at their job. So delegating is a real art. Interestingly enough, I always start from what's your mindset around delegating, So it's always an inside job. If you change your mindset of delegating, you'll be a lot better. And the other thing that is so powerful, healthy teams are allowed to try things and not always get it right first time. Failing is how we grow. If you think of a toddler learning how to walk, babies learning how to walk, it doesn't just stand up and go, oh, I'm going to walk today and walk. No, it's trial and error, standing up, wobble, fall down, standing up, wobble, 2 steps, fall down, fail, get up, fail, get up, fail. So we were brilliant as children of trying things. What happens in the corporate world, and I think business leaders, it always starts at the top. Business leaders will say, oh yes, people can try fix and fail in our organisation, and you talk to the team members and they go, oh, no, you can't. No. That creates a culture of hiding mistakes, which means we're not uncovering problems, but also it means people aren't learning. And I love the acronym FAIL is first attempt in learning. And if you think of all the really successful entrepreneurs of this world, they have done lots of things that haven't necessarily worked out first time. I mean, if you look at Richard Branson, I can tell you now, he isn't sat there going, oh, gee, my airline business is completely kaput. I'm giving up. No, it's another first attempt in learning. What am I doing with an airline business when, through COVID? But he will be thinking about something else. I mean, he's had all sorts of business. Virgin Bride, which is, I think, where you buy dresses online rather than women. Virgin Cola, Virgin Cars. These are all first attempts in learning in a certain area where, nah, that doesn't work, and move on. But these iterations, you grow. And that's what teams, if you're a leader and you can delegate and give people the space to learn, they will be so motivated. It's such a healthy culture for any organisation, large or small, if people are given that chance.
That's excellent. I love that first attempt in learning. I've not heard that before. I like there's lots of acronyms on fear and changing those around, but I haven't heard the first attempt on learning.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not so much about failure, it's about what the goalposts are. So if you say, okay, we're going to try this project and it will be successful if we do X, Y, and Z. And if we do A, B, and C, then it's a case of maybe that project's not for us and we need to then pivot it or cancel it. And if you set those expectations right up front, then people know whether the project is working or not working. And maybe that's the language you need as opposed to success and fail, depending on how your team actually work and think and how you work and think. Because some people love the word failure. Other people run a mile and they won't even experiment. And it was interesting, like you were saying about the baby learning to toddle and then walk. What we do there is we praise them. Every time they fall over, we encourage them to stand back up again. Sometimes we help them up. Other times we let them stand up by themselves. And it's good job. Oh, look, you did one step, you did two step, or whatever it happens to be. But when we do that in our business, and particularly our own business, we beat ourselves up and go, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? Why did I buy the extra shiny object? Why did I put money there? Why did I follow that particular guru? Yeah, it can be a devastatingly spiraling circle in our own head. Another thing that you were saying was about the team. I was doing some work with Taki Moore, who's a business coach in Australia here, and he was talking about a survey that they had done, and they said that one of the most highest valued things there was not what they thought it would be, which was money, but it was inclusion. So like you were saying there, with people, one person thinking that they're not overloading them and the other person thinking they're not trusted, if you actually include your team into that discussion, then you will see whether there's a mismatch in communication there and what you think you're projecting is not what they're projecting. And once again, it all goes down to your own mindset about how you see something and your conditioning. So somebody hasn't trusted me somewhere way back, so now I can't be trusted.
Yeah.
Whereas having that inclusion and that conversation, you can clearly see that there's an issue there and sort it out.
Oh, totally. And it reminds me actually of a client I was coaching several years ago now. And I got brought in to coach him because he just had his second heart attack, although he was only in his 40s. And the heart specialist said, you need to reduce your pressures at work or quite simply you're going to die. That's simple. So he brought me in to coach him. And let's call this guy David. David was he was the director of a finance company that was very successful. And he was like, I think probably wouldn't like it if I described him, but he was like a big cuddly teddy bear. He was so gorgeous, so warm, so caring. And he had this open door policy. So anybody could come in any time and ask him anything. And he would solve all their problems, which is great for everybody else. Well, actually, it wasn't great for everybody else, because what happened is that he created a culture of people not thinking for themselves, people not learning how to solve, and he was overloaded, hence his heart attack. So we did this really simple thing. This was in the days, when he had an office with a door and he had the big desktop computer, and we put on the bottom of his screen in fluorescent yellow paper, ask for a solution first. So every time anybody came into the office, they'd say, "Oh, David, I'm stuck on this." He'd be about to say, "Well, do da-da-da-da." And he'd go, "Okay, so what's your possible solution?" And you could see him go, "Oh, I don't know." And he'd go, "Well, go away and think about it." Initially, I think people were a bit disgruntled by this because they were so used to David just help. But what David found fascinating was how less people came in to see him. Also, his ego got involved here. How so many members of his company came up with ideas that he hadn't even thought about.
Perfect.
And for such a simple thing, it had quite extraordinary effect. But it's interesting, again, I always say to people, just be curious about why you're doing it. I think part of it came from care, but part of why David liked helping, because it made him feel good, powerful, smart.
Absolutely.
But it got in the way of them developing as individuals.
Yes, and by doing that, he also then empowered his team to actually be able to have those conversations, and then you would get less people coming in, but the people that were coming in would have already had the solution before they walked in the door. Yes. Now, this has been really wonderful, Tracey, and we could chat forever. So maybe just summarise those 5 points that we have spoken about.
Yes. The first thing is take a stock take of your life. What's working? What is? And then be curious, not judgmental, about the type of programming you are likely to have experienced, particularly when you were under 7. So what sort of things did your parents say to you or your carers say for you? So what sort of conditioning you had? What sort of life experiences did you have that really stick out? The things that you remember, there will be a reason why you've remembered it, and they'll be significant. And if you can think of or just be curious about any DNA, your family history that might have come through. From that, then it's about looking at the conditioning and the beliefs that you have that are useful, and then looking at the things that are no longer useful. And with the things that are no longer useful, so for example, for me, it was I'm not worthy of money, or I should just give money away, to write out that belief and just explain to your subconscious why it's not working, and understanding that it's not 100% true, and then literally burning it because it's very symbolic to your subconscious, and replacing it with a new belief. Then with these new beliefs, the fourth step is writing out your new self-image in every facet, as if you have achieved every goal that you've ever wanted to, and it's the successful you. So write out that image. And then the final step is to embed. This is the reminding. This is you being a great parent to yourself, of reminding yourself of your new self-image. So this could be having post-it notes, around the house, reminding who you are. It's changing little behaviors. If you never used to bother making your bed, it's maybe going, hey, I run a magnificent business, so I always make my bed. It's just tricking your subconscious mind to the new self-image. And another great way is to use Voice Loop, which is a free app, and you record. So when you're in a really up mood, you record a descriptive of your new self-image, spoken in the present tense. And then if you're doing an Aldi shop or you're walking the dog, you listen to that self-image on Voice Loop. So we reprogram ourselves, so we see ourselves as the successful person that is running a business that is no longer small.
Perfect. So if people would like to know more about you and where to find you, Tracey, where would they go?
Yes, so my website is traceyward.co. So that's Traceyward.co.
So make sure you add the E for Tracey.
That's
and I
right.
believe you also have a book out, Tracey.
I do. I'm very excited. My book is called Being Perfectly Imperfect. It's written specifically with the busy working woman in mind. And it's really taking women on a journey, including looking at the self-image, of changing. Again, it's an inside job of decluttering the inside. So revamping our self-image. So this is the inside image, not the hair and makeup one. Setting yourself some kick-ass dream goals because the whole book takes you on a process of achieving that. And importantly, silencing our self-talk, which can be so sabotaging. So I take women through 7 strategies on how to silence your self-talk, which is just such a liberating thing to do when you can stop listening to, it's like this toxic school friend that's still hanging around with you, even though, you left school years ago. So I take women on a journey so they can really become the woman they were always meant to be.
And that's what we really want, isn't it? To get women to step up to this next level. So guys, of course, you can join in as well, do the self-work too. But this one is for the girls. So where can they get your book, Tracey?
So you can get the book on Amazon. So you can get either paperback or Kindle, and the audio book is coming soon.
Fabulous. Okay. At this point in my podcast, I ask all my guests 5 questions. So 5 is definitely the lucky number for today. So are you game, Tracey?
Absolutely, Cathy.
What is the best advice you have been given by a mentor?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Love that. What is the biggest help that you have received since starting your business?
Having a friend who was a great mentor, who would just listen to my blur of the week, and then she'd go, and what have you learned? Because often weeks where you can go, well, that wasn't productive, or I haven't done anything, but there's some fascinating learnings. It's back to this fail first attempt in learning. So it's seeing, even when you've had a really rubbish week, there's a lot you can learn from it.
Definitely. And I think that's what's come out of this pandemic, is that some people have really changed their businesses and the way they do things because they actually stopped, looked, and have done the learnings. Yeah. So that's fabulous. What is the one thing that you have to do every day, your non-negotiable?
Well, now actually for me, it is make my bed, because if you read in the book, I think women spend way too much time faffing with things that are not relevant. I don't iron, I don't pair socks, life is too short. I'm in the process of taking my business global. Part of my new self-image is, come on, Tracey, this business is a big business. So making my bed, I'm having to deal with the rebellious child in me going, do I really have to? But I'm changing that behavior and it's non-negotiable, because every morning it reminds me this is a global business.
Fabulous. Okay, so what is your favourite business book and why? And you can't say your own.
Oh, gee. I think in actual fact it would be Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It would be the gender neutral version. Because of the times that it was written in, I preferred the gender neutral version. But it's all about mindset.
Absolutely.
That, to me, is the game changer. If you've got the right mindset, it's like if you've got the right self-image, everything else will flow.
Lovely. And our final question is, what do you wish you had known when you started out?
That I was worthy of earning money. I wish I'd learned this whole thing about self-image about 20 years ago. Would have been brilliant, Cathy. Absolutely.
Do I get brownie points for that?
Absolutely, Cathy. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Tracey. We love your wisdom and looking forward to seeing you go global and be a Amazon bestseller if you're not already. So, audience, don't forget to jump in and get Being Perfectly Imperfect.
Perfect.
And jump on Tracey's website, and really appreciate your time today that we've spent on 5 strategies to ensure that you have the right mindset to take the small, inverted commas, out of your small business.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Cathy.
Thanks, Tracey. Don't forget to subscribe to Small Business Talk podcast and head on over to smallbusinestalk.com.au/downloads for all the show notes and links to this episode. Remember, to be great, you must start. Pick one tip from today's episode, take action and implement it. Let's meet again next week at the same time and place. Until then, take action. And SBT community, enjoy your journey.